methodology. Okay, so I think now the recording is on, so we make it a formal good afternoon to each one of you. Thank you so very much for joining the session 2 on the research methodology. So before we proceed, yes, I see some of the new audience today. To give the snippet about myself, I'm Dr. Anubha, into the learning space, into the development space, and being into the executive coach and the yoga and wellness expert. With a good 22 years of background, have been into the L&D space and just loving the journey of, giving and providing the new set of knowledge to the great people like you. So, yes, I represent PRISM, and you can see that we are into the training, executive coaching, and yoga and wellness expertise. If you want to follow me onto the social media, I'm in hashtag Anubha Walia or, @Anubha Walia. You can find me and we can get connected on the various platforms. We'll be having the certain tips and hygiene that we always follow. So let's maintain that harmony. And those who have missed out in the last session, the books that you can refer is already been there, and you can refer any of them. And indeed, the first one is my book, which I have published, and it has got a very good response from the audience like you. So thank you so very much for that. So in the first session, you must have observed we talked about what is research and what is research methodology. Understood the types of research, the criteria of research, and the research application. In the today's session, we are going to focus on the research process. There are various steps to it. I'll not go into the deep dive of the process, but we will start with the process and understand how we can take all the steps one by one. And today, the main focus and the area would be into the identification of the research problem and the literature review. So these are the two critical areas that we'll be focusing today. So before I proceed, I'm going to put you all in a breakout room for 5 minutes. And I want all of you to come up with whatever learnings we had in the day 1, which is the last week. Just revisit that, because reflection is always very, very important. Right? So I'll put you all in a breakout room for 5 minutes. And there are three breakout rooms that I'm creating right now. I would appreciate that. Just, share your learnings from the first sessions to each other. People, those who are new in this particular session, you can also enhance their learning. And then finally, we will discuss it out. Okay, so the rooms are all open. I request you to please join the rooms. All of you join back after this breakout activity. So I'm sure the engagement with each other would be interesting and exciting. Let's start with the group 1, which is Ashi, Sarangi, Reshmi, Ritu, Surendra, Shweta, and Urvashi Kaul. Can we hear from your group members? What was your learning from the day 1, please?
Hi, ma'am, Reshmi.
Yes.
So, ma'am, what we discussed, the first thing that we discussed about what was covered in the previous session was what is research. So that was the first point that we discussed. The second thing that we spoke about is how research methods is different from research methodology. It's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the different types of research methodologies, like qualitative and quantitative, like you had given differences between them and examples for these exploratory and
longitudinal.
Also. This is what we discussed about. And then the last thing that we spoke about was also how it can be applied in different business areas, like maybe in the in marketing, or in, maybe in training and development, in every sphere.
Mm-hmm.
What's the application of research?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, room 1. Let's hear the room 2. Arjun, Gagan, Kalyani, Rajesh, Rakesh, and Yogesh Srivastav, please.
Ma'am, we also have discussed the same thing, that first you talked about we had an introduction session, and then after we came to the research, what is research, and what is the research method, and what is the difference between research method and research methodology, as rightly said by the group one. And then we went to the different parts of types of training research methodologies, where we have asked you questions as well, that what is how we can implement it in the training program, how we can use it. So those answers were given by you, and we were there. And let me tell you, ma'am, don't have that book, because we are Funsuk Wangdus, as said by Arjun in the group right now, that jahan gyan mile ghus jao. So this is not our subject taken, but yes, we have just came to just learn by your lectures. So yeah.
Great. Okay. So thanks, group one and group two, both of you. I'm really looking forward to understand what was your real learnings, So this is one snippet that you're talking about, but then if you can tell me the key takeaways, that you actually learned, and this is what the difference. So even if you tell me that we learned the difference between quantitative and qualitative, and quantitative, these were the techniques that we did. In qualitative, this is the there, So I'm looking for those more insightful stuff. Okay, group three, Deepak, Neelam, and Suraj. I don't know who's asked TL. Please, if you can just share your name or just change your name, and that will be good for me to address you in a right manner. Yes, room three, please. All to you.
Uh, Neelamji, will you go ahead or should I share?
You go ahead, Suraj.
Okay. Ma'am, what we learned in the first session was first is regarding the management research. That's how structured and unbiased it is to be. The sequential method of inquiries. Going forward, then we learned about the research methodology, the methods and data collection and analysis and interpretation. Then we learned about type of researches, that is difference between qualitative, quantitative, descriptive, analytical, applied versus fundamental, and so on. Then we learned about research applications with respect to markets and analysis. And then you taught us about the criteria for research, that's what the purpose behind it, the sequential plan, the logic, and the transparency with which the research has to be carried. Those were the learnings.
Fantastic, great. Thank you so much, all the participants here. So it's always good to refer back what we covered, and so this always bridges the next session in a great flawless manner. Okay, so I'll just share my screen with the today's content.
Walia, is it okay if I ask a question?
Please, please.
In fact, it is a request only. I'm very happy that you said that you would like to know what are the key learnings or takeaways for us from the previous lecture. So, Dr. Walia, is it may I please know by when we will get to know about the assignments? Because in my past 3 semesters, I have experienced this. That if I do the assignments by myself, right, it definitely helps me in understanding the application part of it and the real life implementation also. So, and it will give us the opportunity to interact with you also while we do our assignments, because normally in the first 3 semesters it has happened that we get the assignment only during the examination and somehow we manage and submit it.
Okay. So can I know your name, sir? Whom I'm talking to?
Dr. Walia, Ashish Sarangi this side.
Ashish. All right. So Ashish, let me tell you, in my session specifically, I focus on the little bit of the theoretical context setting, and then we will immediately shift towards the application bit, right?
Okay.
And as I mentioned, it's always good to refer books. You already have the content which has been given by ISTD. I'm not going to teach you all the theoretical elements. So I will not do the, the lip reading from the book or from the slides. It's just that once we do the context setting, you will see, you will start applying it on the case studies. I will be giving you some tasks so that the learning will be enhanced and it will be more on an experiential base. So I would just suggest that hold on. And if you remember in the last session, I started with a small snippet of giving you an example and asking you a question. Okay, this is the scenario is, what kind of research would you apply? Which method will you apply? So at least the, the understanding goes stronger and stronger. So just, I would request for that. But from the ISTD side, if they have some kind of, assessment that needs to be assigned, I'll have a word with the Gurvinder and we'll get in touch with you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Ashish.
much.
Pleasure. Okay. All right. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Perfect. So let's start with our today's very important insight, because this is what the entire process, is the crucial into the research methodology, right? And let's start, because that is how you will see all the 10 sessions will be there, which we are going to be engaged together. And this step by step will really help you, all of you, and you will know how the application actually works of the entire research. So we know the purpose of research, whether we talk about from weather forecast to the discovery of antibiotics, researchers are constantly trying to find a new ways to understand the entire world and how actually thing works. So the ultimate goal of the research is definitely to improve the lives, right? So the purpose of research is to find out what is known, what is not known, and what can we develop further. So with these three elements, you will see that how scientists are developing new theories, ideas, products, and they help in shaping the society and our everyday lives. So the basic purpose of research is to understand and to learn how this knowledge can be applied to a better everyday life. And this is an integral part of our problem solving. Now, there are three main purposes of research. The first one is exploratory. Okay, so the exploratory research is the first research to be conducted around a problem that has not yet been seen clearly defined. So exploration research aims to gain a better understanding of the exact nature of the problem and not to provide a conclusive answer to the problem. So please understand the very important nitty-gritty difference of exploratory is that you are understanding the problem, but you're not providing a conclusive answer to the problem. So that's why we are exploring. We just keep exploring and exploring and exploring, and we conduct more in-depth research later stage, right?
So, ma'am, we try to understand that is it a researchable problem or it's a non-researchable problem? That's what we do.
It's a researchable problem.
Yeah.
It's just that this is the first step where we just explore and we get to know the nitty-gritty and the sensitivity of the subject.
Right. Thank you.
Pleasure. The second one is descriptive. Descriptive expands the knowledge of research problem, okay, by describing its according to its characteristics and the population. Because end of the day, when we talk about research, what we do is we take out the sample from the population, we apply that, and then we give it and give the analogy for the entire population. So in the descriptive research, we focus on how and what, but not on why. Okay, so that's really important here. The descriptive means how and what, but not why. The third is explanation. The moment we talk about explanation is also called explanatory research. It is also referred as causal research. Okay, in this you will determine how variables interact. So in today we will be talking about what exactly is variable. It is basically to identify the cause and effect relationship. And you remember in the first class we did talk about the cause and effect relationship. It's just like an Ishikawa diagram that we have, right? So the fishbone element, which talks about the effect, what results into the what causes that, it explains and deals with the why element of the research question. So descriptive is what and how, and explanatory is why. All right. So this is very, very crucial and important Now, Ashish, the answer to you, okay? You did ask what the application would be. So you will see there would be a question in your exam that how will you differentiate between descriptive and explanatory? Your basic question should start from what, how, and why element. That will show that you have the understanding of the subject, and you will be able to give the research problem. You'll be able to give the right process of the research in a great manner. All right.
Dr. Walia, can we say then, may I please request you to please go a slide back? Can we then say that exploration is all about when, where, who, all?
Well, five whys, all five whys.
All the 5 whys?
Yep. And
Okay.
how it was happening at that time, so 5W1H, everything, you're just exploring how it has happened, nothing more.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, but you are not giving a solution to it.
Okay.
In exploratory, there is no solution. We might come up, we come up with a problem so that we can go in a deep dive. So we can use either the descriptive or we can use explanatory, but mostly people use descriptive.
May I ask a question here, please?
Please, sir, please, all yours.
Madam, does it lead to our getting the degree, or they say you did nothing, just kept on exploring and that's the end of it? Because some subjects do come up like that. You just dive deep. You don't give anything conclusive. You suggest so many things, but does the ecosystem accept that enough work has been done to award the degree?
See, it is when you are wearing a hat of researcher, the guide that you will be getting, the institute that you're getting involved, trust me, there is a very deep dive element of evaluation that takes place, right? And it is not an easy cake walk. I'll be very honest with you. So the moment you will start doing a research, at every step, you will see the challenges coming up. What I have observed, I can give you only one input here, is the moment we decide a research problem, and when we end up doing literature research, that is LOR, we get to know that the problem that we were working was not the real problem. So my important here is that your LR should be very, very strong. So every steps become very critical and very important, right?
So, ma'am, when we talk about the researchable problem and the non-researchable problem, so that stage is before the exploration stage, right?
Absolutely.
When we identify and say, yes, this is the researchable problem, is when we get into the exploration stage.
Absolutely. So even sometimes we need to go, the exploration also starts simultaneously,
Okay.
So you are doing exploration. That's how you're coming up with the research problem.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
In fact, madam, I can only say, if you permit me, it took me almost 2 years prior to getting admission to PhD to even to figure out what is my problem like. Broad idea था, लेकिन उसको formulate कैसे करना है, किस उसमें डालना है, that itself took me 2 years. So can I believe that now that they have admitted me with whatever vague idea I had my problem, things will only keep being better, and whatever I come up with will eventually qualify. Okay. So far, so good. You are fit to get your awarded your doctorate.
I will say, Rajesh sir, that you are at a right place. At least some kind of knowledge, information, you'll take it from here. At least from me, I can vouch for it, and you will see the great research work will be done by you. So kudos.
Thanks a lot.
All right, so there is certain research myths that problem must be clearly recognized. It's a very must approach. You need to determine the information which is already available. Yes, Ashish sir, you have a query.
Yeah, Dr. Walia, any example of non-researchable topic?
There is no such, sir. That's why we say and search. In the first session, I said you're searching the things which is already there and you're researching on it. Okay. Otherwise, you end up making a theory and cases, So that's the wonderful thing. Okay. All right. So, and of course, in the must part is we obtain and access the information very objectively. So that's very, very crucial and a very, very important aspect. Now, when we talk about defining the research problem, okay, so I did talk about in the first session about the basic research and the applied research. So basic research, which is also known as a pure research, it is an original investigation into the reasons behind a process. And that's the answer to you, Ashish, that whenever we find anything, you can work and identify. Uh, I would request to please put yourself on a mute if you're on a family orientation. Thank you. So it focuses on generating knowledge around existing basic knowledge principles, which is there, which is generally considered a non-commercial research because it does not focus on a solving practical problem and it has no immediate benefits or ways it can be applied. And applied research investigates a well-known theories and principles in order to enhance knowledge around the practical aim. Because of this, applied research focuses on solving real life problem. So you are deriving knowledge which has been immediate application. And you will see that there are two types of research, like those which relates to the states of nature of being. That is how it goes very strongly. And you will find that I'll just see that here. Yeah. So you will find that, there is the two step which gets involved in this is basically the formulating of a research problem. Correct. Now, when we say formulating of a research problem, which is understanding the problem really systematically and reshaping the same into the significant term from a analytical point of view. So one of the best approach to understand the problem is to discuss with the contemporaries or with those who are having some element of knowledge in the related matter. And that too very good with academicians, institution. So you will find that researchers can actually take the assistance from the mentors. They have an experience. They will tell you that how the research problem needs to be addressed and to be taken care. So you will see that in this aspect of problem definition, you will find that we describe in a broader context, there is a state of objective or a purpose, and we inform about the scope of the study. That becomes very, very important. And please remember, the scope of the study will actually let you know. I hope you are not doing 2 or 3 research. That means sometimes I have seen even in PhD people are doing, they are doing 2 to 3 PhD in one PhD because the scope is so very big. So it's very important that you understand what is the scope of the study, how much you can narrow it down so that you can give the real output to your work. There should be very clear-cut limitation and what restriction that are there needs to be highlighted very, very strongly. And then we state the hypothesis. Hypothesis, I'm going to talk in the next later sessions in this, but let's focus just on the aspect. The moment we talk about problem identification process, we know there are management problem and a research problem. Okay, but I'm going to talk about right now the management decision problem. You will see the management decision problem. You will see there is a discussion with the subject matter expertise. There is already some kind of literature which is already available. You want to do some kind of organization analysis. You want to do some kind of quant analysis. So you will see all kind of management decision problem actually lies in these 4 parameters. From here, you identify what exactly is the problem, what research framework you will use, what will be the research objective, and what will be the research hypothesis. This is the clear-cut structure into the management problem. Okay, so in the management problem, first you decide where is it coming from. You will identify the problem or a question. Based on the problem and a question, you will decide which research framework or an analytical model that you will use. Based on the research framework, you will write your own research objectives. The research objectives are all starts with the action verb, okay, and then you formulate the research hypothesis. Let's try and build on this further. The problem identification process starts with the problem because we really need to know what are the issues, what are the decisions that needs to be taken, and you need to have a discussion with the respective experts people. So it is like SMEs needs to be there, and you really have to take care of the LR. LR is the most important task in your entire research. I'm making it underline statement for all of you. Please do not think that it's just a cakewalk. Trust me, LR will give you a different understanding about on the research that you want to do. And then there is a respective survey that we keep doing about the further getting enhanced about the subject. So let me first understand from you. There is a decision problem, that is a management decision problem, and there is a research problem. How will you differentiate between both of them? Who can help me? LR is literature of review of literature that we get. Yes, who will help me to know decision problems versus research problems? What could be the difference?
Ma'am, decision problem is related to, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. So decision problem is related to some analysis already done, and on which basis we have certain points to take on, to apply, to take an application and execution.
Okay.
And if I see research problem are like when we do in training need analysis, we research about what learnings are required, what competencies are present, what are not. So from training perspective, training and development perspective, if I see, so this is research, and decision making is we already got the data, we have already got the feedbacks and everything. Now we need to take decision that what content should be applied and executed in training program.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, madam, one thing I would like to supplement. I am Anurag
Yes.
Singhal. And decision thing, mainly what we understand comes when you are having certain options and you have to decide which one is best suitable for us. And for that, all the necessary information available that is analyzed and in our present context, and then we select the best option. That is the decision based. But for research, it can be totally innovative new things.
Okay, so thanks to Anurag and Yogesh both. Anyone else would like to share about?
Ma'am, research somewhere hypotheses are already built, and like results were already been given to us, and after that we start our interrogation about the project, and we come to a conclusion. That may be research.
Okay.
I think decision problem is where it's applied research, where a decision maker has to take a call. A research problem, to my understanding, could be more of developing, exploring, getting to know more about sometimes some research, some hypothesis brings out something which itself needs more research to understand what it is. That's what becomes, should be, in my understanding, what a research problem is. And the decision is for the action maker. Decision maker is action oriented. I may be wrong, please.
No worries, absolutely okay. Great, sir. Yes, Ashish.
Can I?
Yes, yes.
Can I try, ma'am?
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah, the decision problems are the problems which are raised to the management after having a certain data or certain facts and figures on the table, so that only a decision remains to be taken. The research problems are such which needs to go a deep dive inside the problem, finding out different pros and cons, or maybe further study needed before going to a decision-making stage.
Okay.
Decision problem can be, can I tell?
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah, so decision problem can be like management taking decisions without any facts or data. It may not be objective based decisions. Okay. Research problem could be wrong sample size selection or selection of wrong factors for doing the research. For example, like you want to do some kind of regression analysis and you have not considered some important factors. So that could be a research problem also.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you so much for the insightful thoughts. So let's try and build on this. Yes, so research problem is a statement about an area of concern, okay, and a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in a scholarly literature, in theory or in practice, that points to the need of the meaningful understanding and the deliberate investigation. When we talk about management decision problem, there is when a situation arises and management of a company needs to make a decision which requires kind of a research, and hence starts the research process. So one may, also ask, what is the decision problem in marketing research, for an example? So that decision problem in marketing research is the basic question to which a client organization seek an answer from a marketing research agency. So in conducting the research, the agency may break the decision problem down into a smaller number of research questions in order to provide an answer. So that's the element which goes very strongly between both of them. So let me share an example how it works with the decision problem and a research problem. So when I take the example first one, what should be done to increase the customer base of organic product in the domestic market? Now, this is a management decision problem, okay? But this gets turned into a research problem, and how it will be done? What is the awareness and the purchase intention of health conscious consumer for organic products? Now that becomes your research problem. So this is how you have to understand the difference between both of them. Management decision, how to reduce turnover rate in a BPO sector. Research problem, what is the impact of shift duties on work exhaustion and turnover intentions of the BPO employee? And vice versa, you can have more research problem related to this. How to improve the delivery process of a Videx hearing aids in India? How does Videx / industry leader manages its supply chain in India or Asia? Should the company continue with its existing security service vendor or look at the alternatives? What is the satisfaction level of the companies with the existing vendors? Are there any gaps? Can they be effectively handled by the vendors? Can the housing and the real estate growth be accelerated? What is the current investment in the real estate and housing? Can the demand in the sector be forecasted for the next 6 months? Last one, whom should ICICI choose as its next MD, Mr. ABC or Mrs. XYZ? What has been the leadership initiative and performance record of ABC versus XYZ? Can a leading aggressive private sector bank accept a woman as its leader? So now you see the lot of questions are actually, you will see, has a relevance into the what and how, and not from the why element. Okay, the management decision is very, very specific, whereas the research problem is looking at the bigger picture and the holistic approach. Yes, Rakesh Sule sir.
Yeah, madam. Good afternoon, madam. One that is example comes in the mind. Typically, pharma industry or any industry. For that, it is that management problem can be, for example, why the attrition is high. There's 40% in an organization, so this could be decision. And the research probably that what are the things can be done to retain the existing people, or what are the things which keep the people motivated in the organizations.
Very
So,
good. Very good.
yeah, and I think that all these decisions, which are management decisions, have to be always supported with the research decisions. Unless you want to get a precise answer, or you want to fix the mode that is action plan. So it really this is good one, ma'am. I like this.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, Ashish, you're rightly saying, can we say research problem is what information is needed and how it can be obtained? Yep, it is one of the element of that. Yes, Aruna, you have a...
Yeah. I also wanted to make the same point, ma'am. So it's like for a decision problem, the research problem gives the feed to decision to be taken. It's the research feed that we get through the research problem gives the feed for the decision problem, and that's how a decision is taken.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Aruna. Okay, so what we will do is right now, I'm going to put you all in a breakout room again, okay? And you have to share one management decision problem the way Rakesh Sule sir shared, okay? And then based on that, what should be the research problem? I'm going to give you all just 5 minutes in the breakout room activity. You will have the same group members as we had in the previous group. The rooms are all open. Just for 5 minutes, please come up with a management decision problem and with the relevant to it, the research problem.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I had joined a little late, so I wasn't part of any group. So would I be included?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll
Yes,
just give you.
yes, ma'am. Same with me, ma'am. I joined a little late.
I'm giving you the room.
Yeah, hi, even I joined little late, ma'am.
I'm same here, Ritu also. I also joined late.
Okay, I'm just.
Ma'am, same with me, Abid.
Okay, so let me just close. I'm okay. 1 minute.
Yeah, there are many who joined late, so better include all.
No, I will just assign. Don't worry. So let's do the reverse this time. The group 3, which is a room 3, Abid, Ali, Aruna, Deepak, Neelam, and again Astil. I don't know who the person is. So please, let's hear from all of you. Yep.
So ask shared his name in the previous session. His name is Amit.
Amit.
So it might be helpful for you to address him. So the management, basically the decision problem we discussed was that how we can increase our customer base. That is the problem we discussed on. And then for the research problem, it was 2 pointers. First is what we can do, why we are not able to retain the customer, and what are the different buy-in behaviors and what motivates our customer to buy, so that we can retain our existing customer and increase our new customer base.
Okay, so one input to your group is please avoid starting the statement with why element. It should be more of what and how.
For this management decision.
For the research problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Well attempted. Let me hear from the group 2 round, which is a room 2, and the room members are Yogesh, Swati, Rakesh, Rajesh Wadhwa, Kalyani, Gagan, Arjun, and Anurag. Yes.
So, ma'am, what we have discussed that research-related problem are more related to what all we have in what all information we can use to understand what to be implemented. But if we say decision-making problem, it is more related to choosing the right option to implement any change or to take decision. It's decision making problem related to any problem which is we have analyzed already, but now we have to take decision to conclude it for a solution. More Rajesh sir can add, and Anurag sir is also available.
Yes, Anurag sir, you have some.
Yeah. Madam, what we discussed and came to is like research is problem is analyzing factors involved to leading to that problem. Now, if it is something like we gave the example of reduced sales. If an organization is having sales reduced, So there can be various factors, including they are having a high-end product which was not selling much, but now it is not selling at all. There are certain products for masses, and there also the sale has reduced. Now both have got. So what are the all factors involved? Then what is the contribution of that? All that is part of research. But decision thing is comes. Okay, what is to be done now? Where we have to focus to reinstate or reverse this downward trend. So that is the part of decision thing, which we are going to implement immediately.
Okay. So you've used more of the descriptive element of both the subtopics. So, okay. Thank you. Any other input from your group? I mean, because I did remember Yogesh was mentioning some other name also, apart from Anurag sir.
Rajesh sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, he roped me in. I didn't want to say anything. We discussed, in fact, one very smart member of ours, he got a problem directly from Google. I really would have thought, even if we are wrong, would have been better to come up with something ourselves. I'm not a marketing man at all. Not that I hate it, but the same thing can be applied very much for motivational aspects.
Okay.
They can be very well be monetized. I'm into outbound space, conduct marathons, ultra marathon. That's my company. I actually run a company on that. That's exactly what I'm researching on as well. That's why there was so much of confusion and cloud in my mind. But all said and done, motivational aspects can also be thought. For all you know, the problem, your financial problem may actually be rooted in motivational aspects. Attitudinal problems that Hofstede's cultural dimensions.
Okay.
So we have to analyze things correctly. You can easily monetize things even with much less money, much less resources. It means the problem is, why are people not motivated despite so many resources? So first understand the basic problem. It could be motivational aspect. Even that can lead to your research problem in the economic aspects. That intention ठीक नहीं है. Problem है people are not interacting well with each other. That's why this problem is going. So work on that. Work on the softer aspects before you start working on the harder aspects. So the harder aspects then could be your management problem. I'm actually doing it in my society. There were problems. I'll not go into that. So I'm working on the softer aspects that has actually helped us to tackle our financial problems, because the society is not willing to increase the subscription as it happens everywhere. But we're still working. Still, many material things are coming out of it, because we could handle and try to understand a little bit of our soft problems of interactions. So that is one more thing which can come out of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh sir. All right, so let's move to the group one, please. Ashish, Sarangi, Rashmi, Ritu Sinha, Shampar, Surendra, Shweta, and Urvashi. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Surendra Singh here.
Yes, Surendra.
So our team discussed management problem like, should we implement LMS in our organization?
Okay.
And the research problem what we discussed is how LMS is going to improve our L&D parameters, whether and how it will be effective to implement LMS in our organization, considering various factors, various diverse group of participants or diverse group and different levels of employees located at different places. So how it will be feasible? So that could be the research problem.
All right. So the scope, if you will see, has gone so very big in your research problem. So I would just say that, okay, you started pretty well. It's just that just narrow it down. The reason is if the scope is big, then your research problem will also become big and your hypothesis will be so many, and then you will keep doing a lot of research. So just ensure the scope is, yes, you talk to the very crux element. But I must compliment all of you that at least how you all have at least started applying and understood the major difference between both of them. Okay, so
I just formulated one. I come from HR background, so if you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Please.
Yeah, if I look at a decision problem, say introduction of shift system in HR, if that
The
decision
introduction of
shift system in HR,
okay,
and that would be a decision problem, and the research problem could be what time the maximum number of candidates are expected in a day. And the second, research problem, could be that how the grievances of the employees are being handled during the day and at night, considering it's a KPO and it works, 24/7.
Okay. So kind of, yes, pretty fine. But if you will see, you talked about the variable element. This is what immediately I will touch right now, because the element of research problem comes with a variable, and that will actually help you to redraft your research problem in a great manner. So just allow me for that, yes, and then you will see how you will formulate. Although you started in a very great manner, so good effort, right?
Thank you.
Pleasure. So, see the elements of research problem and what she just mentioned, and let's try and build on it so that it will help you all, right? Now, what exactly is variable? Because that's really, really important. Variable is an object or an event or an idea or a feeling or a time period or any other type of category you're trying to measure. Always remember that whenever we are trying to write a research problem, it should be measurable. Okay, so the variables are of different types. The first one is independent variables. And independent variable is exactly what it sounds like, independent. So it is a variable that stands alone and isn't changed by the other variable that you're trying to measure. For example, someone's age might be an independent variable. So if I'm today, whatever my age is, if I'm at that age is, I cannot, go back, or I cannot take the higher age. No, it's an independent variable. Other factors such as what I eat, or which school do I go, how much television do I watch, they aren't going to change a person's age. It will not change my person age. So when you're looking for some kind of relationship between the variables, you're trying to see if the independent variable causes some kind of change in the other variable or not. That is a dependent variable, right? So please understand, these variables are controlled, introduced, or sometimes manipulated by the researchers. They are the cause factor to which the effect is the dependent variable. Okay, so the cause is a factor to which the effect is the dependent. So what is dependent now? Dependent is, again, just like the way I spoke about independent variable, dependent variable is exactly what it sounds. It is something that depends on another factor, the other factor. For example, a test score could be a dependent variable because it could change depending on several factors, such as how much should I study, how much sleep should I have taken a day prior to it, whether I had a proper, the food, what you eat has a lot of relevance to your marks. So you see that you end up making a relationship between the two things that you're trying to find out. What makes the dependent variable change the way it does? So many people have trouble remembering which is independent variable and which is dependent variable. Please, in the research, it has to be very, very clear, because the moment you will talk and work towards the research, the researcher, the first thing they will ask you, but what is your dependent variable? What is your independent variable? And I have witnessed that a lot of times people do the mistake of dependency and independency. So an easy way to remember is to insert the name of the two variables that you're using in a sentence in a way that makes the most sense. So answer to you, ma'am, when you said about whether to introduce the shift in the HR, you need to add the dependent variable and independent variable in this. And sometimes it's very good to make a clear-cut graph, a figure. So when, it's really, really important that what are those dependent variables, what are those independent variables, and who's dependent on what. So you will see the independent variable causes a change in a dependent variable, and it isn't possible that dependent variable could cause a change in the independent variable. Jo ho nahi sakta. It's not possible. Right? Good, thanks. So the dependent variable is a variable being tested and measured in an experiment and is dependent on the independent variable. So these variable measures the impact of introducing or altering the independent variable. So whenever you're writing a research problem, ensure you have both dependent and independent variable in between. There is also something called intervening variable. Now these variables impact, now please remember, intervening variables impact the relation between the independent and a dependent variable. So the intervening variable are usually caused by the independent variable and becomes the cause of the dependent variable. So these are also called mediating variable. Understanding the association between income and longevity. Having money does not make someone's life longer. So variable that intervene are a better, so the person can get a better quality of life, more of comfort, better health care, that can result into the increasing longevity. So it shows about independent, dependent, and what is the impact. That impact is basically intervening variable. There is something called moderator variable. Moderator is effect. There is no impact. All right. So if you get a question between what is the difference between intervening variable and moderator variable, the first difference, impact versus effect. Simple. So these affects the independent and dependent association in relation by modifying or altering the effect of the intervening variable. So typical moderator variable in students' understanding of course delivering includes gender, age, IQ level. That's what a moderating. That's why we say if effect. Okay. The fifth one is control variable. Now the control variables have no direct impact on the results, and their presence may actually add biasing or otherwise negate the impact of the independent variable, such as they should be brought under control. It is an excellent thought to maintain a control group of respondents in an experiment studies, which helps to operate in a certain circumstances in an experimental group. I mean, you must have read about various small experiments, and then we say these were the control groups, right? So the temperature can be a common type of control variable. If a temperature is held constant during an experiment, it is a controlled approach. Okay. Another example of control variable could be an amount of light using the same type of glassware, or even for that matter, humidity element, duration of the experiment. These are important aspects of control behavior, control variable, right? So you will see that a lot of behavioral scientists, they use such research and they work the research problem with the controlled parameter. The last one is extraneous variable. So they are referred to as a factor in the environment, which may have an effect on the dependent variable, but cannot be controlled by the researcher. So कुछ चीजों पे हमारा life में control नहीं है. So those are extraneous variable. Okay, they can be harmful and dangerous too. Let me be very candid, put it here. They can challenge the validity of research also, making it impossible to know whether the independent variable or extraneous variable cause that effect or not. So as they go beyond the control, it becomes imperative to state that they may have a possible impact when reporting the research findings. Example, we might want to know how the number of hours that a basketball player trains per week affect their average points per game. But an extraneous variable that could also affect their points per game in the number of hours they spend, when they spend stretching, playing for more time. So that is how you see all these elements becomes very, very important. I'll just see the chat box you have. Yep. Age group, demography, definitely, Ashish, those are the ones, right? So please remember that whenever you're writing a research problem, there is a clear-cut independent and dependent variable is there. So that's why you will see all the things and aspects are very clear here. Organic products, health conscious, and turnover, exhaustion. So these are all dependency and independency go simultaneously. So I just
extraneous
want to give
variable
you
we
an
can call
example
noise
here.
factor also.
I'm sorry, sir.
Extraneous variables we
Yeah.
can call as a noise factors also.
They are noise factors, sir. They are noise factor. True.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
So
customer behavior is also an independent variable, right? Customer behavior.
So it all, yes. So it depends on the statement that you will have, the research problem that you will have, will identify that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you please explain moderating variable one more time?
Okay, moderating variable, as I mentioned very categorically, that in the moderating, it is an effect. Okay, so basically it is whenever we are modifying or altering the effects of the intervening variable. So it's like when I gave you the example of the student's understanding of a course. So like, how well are you receiving this particular research methodology course will have a strong effect if you already have a research background, or else when you have a good IQ, or even for that matter, based on the age element, right? So that's how
is it something like that if two independent variable or X variables are having causal relationship between two, so to nullify that effect, we can use one third variable, which can be called as a modifying variable?
No, sir. Moderator variable is in between the independent and dependent variable. Please understand this I'm just sharing my screen. I'm making it a screen share right now for all of you, making a whiteboard, huh? Guys, if this is my independent variable and that's my dependent variable, the dependent variable is on independent variable and the moderating variables are in between. So because of this, the effects happen and that's how the results come to the independence. It goes other way around or simultaneously. So please don't get confused into this.
But you told that moderate.
Sorry?
Ma'am, independent variable can't be changed, right? It remains.
Independent variable can't be changed.
Right. So the moderating, that has an impact on independent, but it can't influence it to change, right?
No, it can't influence to change. But sometimes we end up checking that, yes, this moderation has an effect on the result.
Right.
So that comes a part of the research problem. So many times you will see a lot of people end up doing a research by using a moderator variable. Are we good?
Yeah, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. So, I see I've given you a very simple example on the screen that how the research question is there, what are the independent variable and what are the dependent variables, so that it's easier. What is the effect of intermittent fasting on blood sugar level? So intermittent fasting is your independent variable and blood sugar jab aapka change ho raha hai, it is dependent. Okay. So that's how it becomes a dependent variable. So the amount of sugar that you have, it will affect your intermittent fasting and you will increase or decrease your weight, whatever it happens. The same very way, to what extent does remote working increases job satisfaction? So your job satisfaction is dependent on the work environment. So this is how you need to ensure that your research question have both the thing, dependent as well as independent variable. And you will see your research will become much easier there. Are we good to go?
Ma'am, in the independent variable, when we come to the last example, type of work environment, remote or in office. So maybe I have not understood it.
So I've given you an option of remote working or in the office, So, I mean, you want, there has to be a...
That's okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
So what my question is, ma'am, so here we are able to, we can flex up with the independent variable, right? We can flex it up. Like it can be either remote or in office. So that can...
So that's this is where, so you can make it in office or in a remote. So but the moment you write remote, then your hypothesis will also change.
So no more changes can be made to it. Once we decide on remote, then no more changes.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Otherwise, if you're doing remote or in office, it can create a confusion. So the first question will come, are you going to work in the office or are you going to work in the remote? You can write remote and in office. That's why I say it can be either.
Right.
Then it will become two different research altogether. Okay, super. So the elements of good research, definitely it has to be clear and concise, which is very, very important. And you will see that, whatever you are doing, it should be very clear cut. The problem which should be related to one or more field study, which is you need to avoid research problem that don't have a relationship with one or the other field of study. When we talk about, the research problem, it should be very feasible. So I always say a good research problem is that that you can study within a given time frame and a budget. So therefore it should a problem that isn't feasible to the research, it will not work otherwise. It should be very significant. So you will see it should account for what we call is so what question. So don't just focus on the significance of the problem. Has you too as a researcher, if the research question developed from the issue looks into who cares and you are actually there to solve that particular problem, then you should be able to generate research question. So which when you develop a research question, it will actually help you and allow you to generate one or more specific research question, and then it will be easier for you to identify and work towards the investigation. And then you will also see there is a very important aspect is a sufficient data. If the data is not there, trust me, it becomes a very, very challenging. So please ensure sufficient data is there before the investigation. If you don't have data, then definitely there are different ways to do a research. I don't say that you can't do, you definitely can do, but then the more the data point, the better results comes out. And finally, most important, it should have a base of literature review. So this is what I'm going to start is on the literature review, because a good research problem is that it should relate to the research literature. So literature should have written by a group of researcher, and it should have been published in any of the journals, right? So you may experience difficulties in establishing the connection between the existing literature and some of the research problems. So, that's how it becomes really important to focus on the literature review. So literature review is basically one of the research, once a research problem is identified, the researcher must study all the available literature to himself or herself familiar with that particular selected problem. There are two types of research literature review that is there. First one is a conceptual literature, which is related to the concepts and the theories. Okay. And the second one is empirical, which is consist of the previous studies similar to the proposed research problem. So this is very, very important. And when we talk about, I'm not going into the definition and all that, you can all go through it. So if I have to ask you, what can be the importance of literature review? How will it benefit? Who can help me to know that? What can be the benefit?
We will make sure that we don't repeat the same thing that has been done. For example, even the very basic thing of getting to know the structure of a molecule, there were actually 3 researchers. There were 2 researchers which were done, which came out with something very vague. Both got Nobel Prize for it. It's only finally when they kept on refining that today we understand, even a class 8 or 9 student understands what he says, so basic. But it took the scientists so much more to get to be thoroughly confused to state something which the thought was best. So that's why literature review is very important to know where it's like becomes a start point. If something is wrong there, we can set it right. Or at least we take off from there. That's why research work is very, literature review is important.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Rajesh sir. So you see the importance, what Rajesh sir mentioned, it's like don't reinvent the wheel, which is already there. You have to rework, not rework, you have to research that what is further can be done on the existing research and how you can extend your effort. So, you can identify the research problem and the development or refine the research question. You can generate a useful research question, or even for that matter project the activities of the respective discipline that you're going to work on. There can be an orientation to what is known and not known about an area of inquiry. Okay, and then that's how you can contribute. So here, when we're talking about literature, we would like to know your contribution. What is it that you're contributing into that entire paraphrase of the work? Okay, you can determine the gaps or the inconsistencies in the body of knowledge. You can discover an unanswered questions about subject, concepts, or a problem. Need to replicate a prior study in a different study settings or a different samples or a different size on a different study population. So you'll be just to give an example, when I did my PhD, so my PhD, as you know, it was on a followership style and a leadership style. So when I was doing a research onto this, so my topic was followership style and a leadership style in a middle management of selected manufacturing and service sector. Okay, so here the scope further becomes, I gave us a limitation as well as a future study for those who want to do a research into the followership style, specifically to the women, or a respective population. Even the leadership level at a senior management, the scope was open. So what Ashish says is the aim of literature review is to summarize and synthesize the arguments and ideas of existing knowledge in a particular field without adding any new contribution. Oh yeah, very good. Thank you so much for that. So we see that there are primary source and then there are also a secondary source, as I have already mentioned. So please remember when we talk about the purpose of literature review, it's like I have already mentioned. I'll not go deep dive into it. The purpose is to convey the readers the previous knowledge, develop the research investigation tool. You can also update the state of research which is there, place into the context of the contribution, and so on. So I'm not doing the Gyan element. So the primary and the secondary source, which is just to give you a revisit here again, is literature review mostly relies on the primary source. Let me be very candid here, because research reports, which are description of the studies written by the researchers who conducted them, is what is primary. So primary resource is actually written by a person who develops the theory or conducts the research, or and that person has given the description of an investigation written of the person who has conducted it. So the most primary resources you will find are found in a published literature. So I've given you an example of a primary resource, an original qualitative on patient experience in the ICU, feeling safe of the psychosocial need of the ICU patient, which was published in the Journal of Nursing Scholarship. The same way, when we talk about the secondary source research documents are the description of the studies prepared by someone other than the original researcher. So they are written by people other than the individuals who have developed the story or conducted the research. So when I was doing my research on the leadership style, I followed the path goal theory, which was already been given by the X person. So that become a secondary element. So the secondary source may be used when the primary source are not available, if the researchers want external opinions on an issue or a problem, and even the results of their own research that can be done. So accordingly, you can build on your secondary source. Let's try and work on the points that really needs to be considered on the literature review. Please remember, you have to be specific. That means please state a specific finding listed in the article, specific methodologies which is used in the study. Literature review are not the place for a long course or in-depth analysis of each point. It is just a very brief element. So be specific, be selective. Researchers should narrow down a lot of information into a small space of literature review. Okay, focus on the current topic. Please understand that, because sometimes I've seen you are doing this research and suddenly you start exploring this and this and this and you go haywire. You need to analyze the point, such as its current article, if not how old it is, and has a claim, evidence, argument, and so on. Okay, ensure evidences for claims. You should focus on what supports is given for claims made in the literature, what evidences are there, what types are there, whether it is experimental, statistical, anecdote, what kind of evidences which has been offered. Focus on the source of evidence. So ABDC journals, like, it should be ensuring a reliability of the source of the evidence. So please ensure the authenticity, the historical records, the government documents, where are you getting it? So the reliability becomes very crucial. Then you will see the account of a contrary evidence. Does the author takes into account all the contrary and conflicting evidences or not? Whether is addressing the disagreements or not, that becomes the researcher's duty. The citations, any references you are using needs to be cited. It's very, very important, and it must be included in the bibliography. Avoid any kind of abbreviations. Please avoid technical terms, jargons, abbreviations. Research work doesn't appreciate that. It should be simple and accurate, as I say. You should a very simplistic knowledge statement, and please avoid the errors in the form of punctuation, grammars. And let me tell you, we have witnessed a lot of dissertations, thesis getting rejected even on these parameters. You need to organize the literature review, whether you want to use the in the form of chronological order, or with the subtopic or basis, or on the individual references. It all depends on you, but it should be following the respective manner. And referring the original source, that where are you citing the material which originates from, may require a careful reading of the references, guys. Please, it's better to track and use the original references and not just for the heck of it. So that's how the element is on the literature review. Query, question.
Madam, I had asked a question. In fact, I posted it on the chat to see it. I'd asked, do social sciences also necessarily have independent and dependent?
Yes, sir. All the things. Yes, Rajesh, sir. Very true. Because otherwise, how will you do the research end of the day? So even if you're working on even the social science, you will see everywhere you have to identify the dependent and independent approach. The measurable variable has to be there. Or even if some variables which are not measurable, right? So then you have to put it into a quantifiable manner. So we will be talking about when we talk about the types of research element, we will specifically when we are into the non-random approach, you will get to know a lot of answer there, so where we can't measure it, right?
Okay, thanks.
Pleasure, sir. Query, questions? Okay, that means we are good to close. Thank you so much. So now we will meet on the the next week, and I would really request, so please go through whatever we have studied today. Just put down on your notes, and then we will further build on it in the next session by taking up the third and the fourth approach of the research process, right?